Hello and welcome to the latest in the MuleSoft webinar series. Citrix aligns sales and marketing with Salesforce and MuleSoft. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a couple of webinar logistics. This webinar is being recorded and you will have access to the recording once the webinar is over. If you have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to ask at any time using the questions button. We will have time for Q&A at the end of the presentation as well. If you hear something you like, we encourage you to engage on Twitter using the official hashtag MuleSoftWebinar. And finally, if you have any questions about a particular use case, you can submit them to our team of integration experts at MuleSoft.com/ask. And with that, we'll transition to our presenters. Carrie?
Hi, yes, I'm Carrie Brooke, Senior Director of Product Marketing at Salesforce, and I'm excited to talk to you about sales and marketing integration today.
Great, I'm Chris Purpura. I lead up our cloud go-to-market here at MuleSoft.
Hi, my name is Imran Noor, and I'm the Senior Integration Development Manager at Citrix. I've been Citrix for the past 2 years, and today I'm going to talk about the marketing automation and Salesforce integration.
Hi, my name is Chris Morris. I'm Marketing Systems Program Manager at Citrix. I was part of the initial onboarding regards to cloud and our integration with Marketo and Sales, and we also co-presenting with Imran on how we enable that technology.
That's great. So let's get into the first piece of the presentation then, with marketing and sales united with a common goal. So what are some of the common goals that can help unite marketing and sales? Well, when we look at the marketing and sales mix, the mix of the activities actually changes quite drastically when we look between different kinds of industries. And I've got two examples here of an aircraft manufacturer and obviously a website called restaurants.com. But what we find is partners very often form the alignment between those two types of organizations. So what are some of the common goals between marketing and sales? Well, what we're going to go through really here is the funnel, the pipeline. That is the common goal to drive pipeline and ACV between these two departments. But over 38% of CMOs say that integrating and aligning sales and marketing is a top priority. So why is that not being achieved in the world today? Well, the first is actually the focus, right? So marketing will be focusing on the content at the top of the funnel, the click-through rates and the leads. And sales is much more focused on taking those leads, creating opportunities, and then closing deals. But when we look at that continuous process, we can actually bridge the gap between sales and marketing. So content leads through to click-through rates, leads through to leads, qualified leads, opportunities, and close rates. What are some of the benefits of integrating sales and marketing into this common process? Well, we've got some stats here from Mass Marketing, Serious Decisions, and Marketing Props. From an alignment perspective, if those two departments are aligned, we see a 24% faster growth rate in revenues and a 36% higher customer retention rate. And in terms of the funnel management piece, 60% increase in follow-up within 24 hours when those processes are aligned, and a 67% improvement in close rate if that funnel is aligned. So what are some of the benefits when we bridge that gap between sales and marketing? Well, the first is funnel analysis right through the pipeline process actually drives positive ROI. We can actually track customers back to the original digital programs, for example. Sales can also begin to understand what's driving the pipe into their stage of the process, and we in marketing can actually get real-time updates to an understanding what is actually driving a return from the programs that we're running. Secondly, if we understand our customers better, we can actually create better content. So when that content is driven from customer stories that may be in that pipeline, support and service information, orders and pipe, all of this content can be driven from understanding those customers better. And in terms of knowing the customer, the salespeople can actually see, well, what was their order history? What was their case history? and actually derive customer marketing from understanding what the buying patterns have been before. In terms of opportunities as well, if marketing actually has a view all the way through the sales cycle and not just at the top of the funnel, they can actually help out putting programs together, not just to market to leads and prospects, but actually do some marketing, some even one-on-one marketing with the opportunities that are in the funnel. And understanding the industries that they're in, they can create customer stories and provide those to opportunities as well as to leads. We can see where customers in the pipe now, what previous orders have they looked at? What makes up that pipe? What support information is attached to those opportunities? And we can look at which competitors we're going up against to provide competitive information to the salespeople and through our marketing programs. And through partners too. So understanding what is actually driving our pipeline in our partner landscape, creating communities so our salespeople can really team not just with marketing, but with our partners and their marketing departments as well. And then also making planning actually valuable to the entire organization, not just to the finance department. So having a system of collaborative planning between sales, marketing, and finance means that we can actually see both the full cost and the revenue being driven from our programs. We can actually see a 360 view of the campaign, not just a disjointed lead analysis and then closed deals analysis. We can see right through that campaign how much revenue it's driving. So that's just a really brief look at what we've seen with our Salesforce customers who have integrated those sales and marketing departments. But now I'm going to hand it over to Chris Papura from MuleSoft.
Thanks, Carrie. So I'm going to expand on sort of the scenarios that Carrie mentioned because what we see from the vantage point that we sit working with our customers as the middleware platform is we get a purview across many, many different things that fit around Salesforce. Salesforce integration is a massive topic, and you can see that all the way from the marketing front ends to some of the order history, which was one of Carrie's examples. I mean, would you like to know the propensity to buy and whether it's an existing customer when that lead comes in? That may determine the type of lead scoring and routing and priority that's given to a particular lead as it comes in, and it may have different rules associated about which salesperson needs to act on it or how quickly a salesperson needs to act on it. And this doesn't just come from one or two systems. What we continue to see across, I think, our customer base is that marketing is omnichannel. It is coming from all sorts of front ends, whether social or web or even retail, point of presence type of marketing of opportunities that you need to act on. But the back-end systems are even more complex, and obviously there are a tremendous number of legacy and custom systems that come into the picture. One of the things that we continue to see and where we get brought in is we see that over a period of time, people have taken different approaches to how they try to stitch this mosaic together. And some of the problems that we continue to see, and Citrix will speak to a bit in a moment, is we see very, very messy data. When you have lots of different sources of data, having a strategy on how to filter and route and govern that in terms of scoring it and acting on it is a big problem area. Oftentimes these are very manual processes to bring in the data, which can create data being out of sync, can create a lot of manual work. And as I mentioned in the omnichannel example, there's just not a lot of consistency about how to treat this data as it comes in, which is happening more and more in real time. The impact, that's the impact just on sales and marketing. On the IT side, it becomes a really big problem of how to even begin to unwind a lot of the point-to-point integrations that get created by the business departments. How do they not just clean it up, but begin to sort of meet the ever-changing needs of marketing at the speed of the business, not at the speed of IT. how to govern the data, and then how to really solve these difficult hybrid scenarios that we see, pretty much everywhere with any enterprise of any real size. I mean, there's a segment of the world that's growing up in the world of all SaaS, but it's starting to look a lot like this hybrid scenario as well, where you just have a myriad of systems that need to talk to each other. So, I think one thing if I leave you with is the point-to-point integrations around Salesforce don't scale. They might work in the beginning, and if you have very tactical needs, it's a relatively easy way to go. But as you start to really mature your marketing to sales processes, you'll start to run into some challenges. You may want to change out places where you pull in marketing data. Somebody might launch a new website or new campaign. How do you plug that in? How does that data interact with data maybe coming from more traditional events or other systems? And how do you begin to apply real business rules and custom logic about how you bring in this marketing data and efficiently route it to your salespeople? I know one thing that we spend a lot of time on is trying to ensure that the leads that we surface up as A opportunities to our best salespeople are the right opportunities. And so the logic and getting clean data and getting data with context starts to override just about every other consideration because sales cycles are expensive. Further, when we work with our customers, we've seen a number of different patterns for the use cases of how people begin to integrate and look at integration itself around connecting marketing and sales together. There's very basic data loading types of activity that go on. If you come back from a trade show and you've got 1,000 names and you just need to load it into your marketing automation system, apply the business rules there, and then try and move it into your Salesforce system. There's a whole set of sort of templates around that we provide. There are more real-time scenarios where you're pulling in social data that's very process-driven. It's real-time. It's streaming data in based on events. And that's what we have patterns and templates around this sort of middle process-centric area to help customers implement this much faster. And then I would say more at the high end, more of our leading customers, we're seeing really sophisticated architectures where IT and the business is working together hand in hand. There's some really interesting custom APIs that are getting created that allow you to begin to pull in that data real time from myriads of sources, and it's then routed across both the marketing, sales, and even customer service and customer master systems that may be sitting in their ERP system to enrich the data and route really a complete 360-degree view of that opportunity to the right salesperson at the right point in time. And that's kind of what I would call digital marketing nirvana. And we are starting to see a number of large enterprises reach that end state. What we bring to the table is a platform that can kind of solve all of these different use cases through a single development and runtime environment. We can connect to anything. It's all very graphical, so it's very easy to learn. And it's already hybrid ready, both from where the integration processes run, but also in terms of what it can connect to securely across the firewall as needed. We call this our Anypoint platform. It sort of breaks the world into three broad areas. Obviously, SaaS is critical in terms of being able to connect to those systems, move data back and forth, but also transact with those systems through the APIs that they provide. And all of the marketing automation systems provide very robust APIs to interact with Salesforce as well as a variety of on-prem systems as needed. And that's where kind of our traditional SOA capabilities come in, the ability to connect to things like SAP or Oracle type ERPs, custom mainframe systems. We can pretty much get data in and out of anything you can imagine. And then the ability to bring that together into simple processes and both to connect to and to consume a variety of new standards around APIs that are becoming much more prevalent around mobile. A really quick example of sort of where the integration becomes critical in how you think about your marketing and selling going forward, I think, is in the mobile footprint. These are very simple interfaces that you're putting in front of customers or prospects that start to use your apps. And as you can see, even though it's all brought together, for example, in a Salesforce One app, the data that's being pulled in to that single smartphone application is coming from all over the place. And it's both real-time and historical. It's location specific. It's coming out of prior support history, and it includes payment information. So being able to bring the world of browsing and shopping through a mobile application, and bringing that into the context of what you're trying to do in your CRM systems with your enterprise data, integration becomes a really strategic topic that you need to start to think through and consider. And so we hope you'll talk to us about that. And I think what we'd like to do now is sort of bring these two concepts around what's going on in sales and marketing with integration together with one of our mutual customers, Citrix.
Thanks, Chris. My name is Chris Morris. I'm a marketing system program manager at Citrix. Been here for about 4 years now. I worked on the initial project to actually onboard Cloud Hub at Citrix. And actually work closely with Imran, who's also presenting with me as well on the onboarding of the technology as well. So I want to go ahead and just share a little bit about Citrix and who we are. Citrix is a global technology company. We have offices around the world. We're a leader in mobile workspace, virtualization, networking, and cloud services. Primarily at Citrix, what we do is we help organizations work better through our technology and services that we provide. We support over 300,000 companies and have 100 million users globally leveraging our technology and services. And as of 2013, the company has over 10,000 employees and has generated $2.9 billion in revenue. So I want to discuss today a couple of business drivers for why we actually chose to implement Kava. And from a marketing perspective, what was important for us is to have a tight integration with sales and the sales data in Salesforce, which is our CRM, and the marketing data that we had in our marketing automation solution. Up until previously that point, the two systems weren't integrated, and this caused a lot of pain, as you could imagine, just from an overall operational efficiency. Being able to, marketing, for us what was important is to have the right level of information so that we can do proper targeting, segmentation, and because those two platforms were tightly integrated, we really had to do manual processes to bring in the data and do those types of campaigns that we wanted to be able to do. So our primary focus from a marketing perspective was to enable this closed-loop integration with Salesforce and marketing automation to really establish a key set of use cases. And so for us, one of those use cases was just looking at the distribution of the marketing qualified leads from marketing automation back to sales. We needed to be able to send over those marketing qualified leads to Salesforce in a timely fashion. As you can imagine, as soon as a lead is qualified, we want to be able to get that lead in the hands of sales as quickly as possible. And that was one of the key drivers, for us actually looking at a Cloud Hub solution because, timing was critical for us. The other use case was just looking at personalization and targeting and segmentation. And again, you think from a marketing perspective, we spend a lot of time on campaigning, and we won't, spend a lot of, money on making sure our campaigns look well, they're presented in different channels and marketing industries. And so what's important is who we target. And so having those key sets of information from Salesforce, inside coupled with the data that we have in marketing automation really allowed us to do better personalization and better overall targeting because there was a lot of data that we had within sales, as I mentioned earlier, that really just marketing automation didn't have the ability. And so kind of streamlining and bringing those two platforms together and having them talk to one another and share data allows marketing really to get a lot of that value. The other element too, just looking at nurturing, I think that's kind of the industry trend when you talk about things, looking at the customer journey and communicating and having this dialogue. Nurturing was a really big focus for us. And again, just looking at sales and where a lot of our sales reps were in the kind of their lead qualification process, we really wanted to establish a point where sales can say, hey, you know what, maybe this lead isn't qualified yet. Maybe we want to go ahead and pass that lead down for some additional nurturing. And so, again, that's where that integration was really important between sales and marketing, so that, sales can say, guess what, I really feel like this lead, he's interested, he's just not ready yet. Let's go ahead and put him in the nurture and keep him warm until he is ready to buy. On the other side of just looking, aside from the close integration, the other important aspect that we're looking at is business intelligence and analytics. We have a really great analytics team here at Citrix who's done a lot of work on data mining and big data mashups, and we knew there was a lot of data that our marketing automation solution was capturing. And we really wanted to be able to look at things like buying behavior and how prospects were interacting with Citrix and figure out, are there any learnings that we can take from a marketing perspective to enhance our marketing programs. And so what was key for us is, how can we, bring this data on-premise to, our data warehouses and have our analytics team mine the data, come up with, findings and learnings that we can go back as a marketing organization and tweak and implement from a program execution perspective. I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Imran, who's going to just talk a little bit about the IT landscape and the overall infrastructure at Citrix.
Thank you, Chris. As a large enterprise at Citrix, we have been leveraging self-distributing line of business applications like SAP, NPM, Salesforce, D&B, Oracle, and Microsoft SQL Server. So we are a cloud-based focused company and constantly leveraging more and more SaaS-based applications. We just wanted to make sure that we are aligned with this adoption and we are able to support the future growth at Citrix. So with these requirements, it brought us to review and adopt an integration platform as service. We reviewed several iPaaS solutions in the market and opted to choose and go with the Cloud Hub so that it can support all the easy to complex integrations that can work for both on-prem and the cloud-based applications. So, as part of that review, the requirement review, we looked at several iPaaS solutions and chose to work with MuleSoft Cloud Hub as a tool that can not only support the rapid development as well as the early adoption and provide us the ROI. So, as part of the business department, we were looking at reading the lead accounts and contact objects from Salesforce, apply these to the business tools that Chris just talked about, perform some dedo, perform the survivorship, and send that data over to Marketo. So, as part of the solution, we use the Salesforce connector to connect and query the data from Salesforce. We brought the data into the MuleSoft Cloud application where we perform all these rules and perform the required transformations. And then on top, we use the Marketo connector to send this data to Marketo. So for most of these leads and accounts, they were initially created in Marketo and sent over to Salesforce, where they can be updated. The information on that can be updated inside Salesforce. So as well as there was a unique requirement that a new contact can be created inside Salesforce that will go back to Marketo as a new person. It will be updated on the lead, and then the reference will come back and get updated in Salesforce. So this was not a unique synchronization or integration, it was a bi-directional integration. So we've been running the solution in production for the past year and a half, and it's been working so great. We've been able to process over several hundred thousand transactions without any issue. The reason why we picked up the MuleSoft Cloud Hub was to not only build this integration, but to be able to support our future integration requirements and leverage it as a platform that can support all the non-functional requirements like operational monitoring, error handling, automated retries, the notifications, if anything fails, things like those. And like Chris said that for the analytics and BI, there was a requirement to load the huge payloads from Marketo and bring it back to the ODS so that our analytical teams can review the data and mine the data and get the information to the marketing team. So for that one, we again use the same architecture. We use the Marketo connector to connect to Marketo systems. We got the data, transform the data, and send it to on-prem using OData connector. So with that, having these connectors availability, having the support to transform the data very quickly and build this integration, so definitely we were able to deliver these solutions to our business very quickly and leverage the benefits of them. So with that, I will transfer to Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Imran. So I'll go ahead and just wrap up and talk about some of the key benefits of why we chose to go with Cloud Hub. So, one of the early conversations when we started discussing this with IT was we had a very non-standard Salesforce environment. One of the concerns and really one of the needs we wanted to support was the ability to really link or connect with our Salesforce environment that some of the other tools had some challenges with. So that was one of the benefits with Cloud Hub is that, even with our non-standard environment, we'll still able to connect to all the various objects within Salesforce and be able to bring that data over to our marketing automation solution. And again, I think Imran alluded to this as well, as far as marketing, we really had a set of business rules that we defined for how the data was integrated. So we pulled in a set of key objects within Salesforce that we wanted to integrate, but then it was very important to us to control how those objects got integrated and at what point. And so that also provided a lot of flexibility with that, where marketing was able to say, okay, this object, contact object, these are the business rules that the solution is supporting. And the data will need to be pushed this way, and what is the time, really at an object level, which is really powerful for us. I think I mentioned this a little bit early on. We look at Salesforce or CRM. I think every organization has a challenge or an issue with duplicates. And so with Cloud Hub, again, what was important for marketing is we didn't want to necessarily introduce duplicates in our marketing automation solution. So we really were able to use logic to handle the duplication scenarios. And so we really spent a lot of time, actually just building on a base rate of all of the scenarios in which Citrix may have a duplicate record, and then what are the expected results and how the solution actually handle each of those scenarios. And I think it's something that worked out really great for us because we didn't. It gives us an opportunity to, instead of introducing data quality in our marketing automation solution, we were able to support them in a manner that was still beneficial to the business, but also allowed us time to identify those scenarios and figure out how do we clean this up and address them from a future perspective. Some of the other key things that I think Imran also talked a lot of the monitoring and just being able to report on our sync times if there are failures or issues. We work really closely with the IT team, and actually marketing, our team marketing system actually monitors these interfaces. So whenever there's an issue, what's great is we can log in, we get an alert notification, someone on our team logs into the Cloud portal, and then they're able to actually diagnose and troubleshoot the issue. And if it's something that we need to involve IT with, then we will engage IT and address any of those kind of issues that way. So another element that was nice is that some elements of actually doing this support is actually self-enabled on our side. We're kind of act as a lower level tiered support team as it relates to any issues with the Cloud interface that we built.
Great, thanks Chris, thanks Imran. This is Chris from MuleSoft. I'm going to pick up in terms of handling some of the Q&A. So, and Carrie, thank you as well. I'll dive right in onto some of the questions that we have coming up. So first off, getting sales concerns and marketing concerns aligned, and then engaging with IT is sometimes a challenge. Where did you guys start this journey to where you decided you needed an integration platform and you needed to kind of do this as a project? If you speak to some of the sort of interaction and alignment challenges that you had in the beginning, and what worked and what didn't.
Yeah, it's a great question. So from I think marketing, as a marketing organization, we have a roadmap that, that we've kind of put together from executive leadership. So this was definitely an item when we looked at, how can we evolve and the way that we do campaigning. This was definitely an item, just integration in of itself that was on that roadmap. So I think it really came down from an executive leadership perspective, which is always nice to have. In regards to the way that we collaborated, we established a steering committee team and our CRB team that really was in support of this approach. And really, I think what was great is we actually engaged IT very early on in the project. It was something that we knew we wanted to do, that we needed to do, and we got full support from IT. And really, I think it was a collaboration between both teams to actually support this initiative. I think from a sales perspective, they were definitely involved from a visibility perspective, and ensuring that some of the key use cases that had to deal with how they would interact with maybe some of the new capabilities of the solution provided. We also work closely with them, and I think again it just came all from I think more so the leadership and having a kind of a plan that was socialized very early on in the beginning.
Got it. That's great. Another question is, you guys are using Marketo, but I think any of the marketing automation systems pretty much all come with a pre-built Salesforce integration kind of out of the box. What were they? Why not just use what they provided? What made you have to go kind of outside of the app itself to sort of put something broader in place?
Yeah, it was. We did do an evaluation with the out of the box connectors and various options. I think there's a level of complexity that we had, in regards to some of the objects and how they were built, as well as just looking at our Salesforce instance. And so I kind of mentioned this in some of the benefit slides. When we started to look into how would we handle duplicates, that scenario, how would we handle survivorship from different objects. It was a lot of those connectors are built for environments that are more standard, where maybe those challenges are not as prevalent. And so for us, I think it was more important that we had a solution that was flexible, and really we could build with in mind some of our data challenges and our specific needs.
Got it. So how long did it take sort of to get this project going? Was this a typical IT project that takes months and months, or did it operate at SaaS speed? What was involved?
Yeah, so it was I think it was an agile project. That was the way that we approached it. We did spend some quite a bit of due diligence early on during the analysis phase. But in regards to the actual execution, and Imran, maybe you can talk to that, but it was really more of an agile approach. It took us about a quarter to get up and running a solution live, which I think is very fast. It's not a typical IT lifecycle project, which you think it takes sometimes years to get up and running. So it was fairly quick. Once we understood what we needed to do and had a good design, really just the development took just a couple of months.
Absolutely. And the POC itself took us a couple of weeks to prove out that this platform is good enough for us. It provides us all the feature set. And then the actual development took us a couple of months to deliver the solution and 1 month to operationalize it.
Got it. So Citrix is an online services provider as well as sort of shrink wrap products. What are you guys doing around sort of omnichannel? Where do all your needs come from, and how does that flow into this environment? You have a lot of self sign up on your website for everything from GoToMeeting to other things. What all is coming in through this integration feed, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, so we use marketing automation as our primary point of entry for all of marketing. And so a lot of that data is coming directly into Marketo. There is a subset of some of that data. Sometimes, maybe a salesperson may do an import where kind of, again, Imran mentioned where we want to bring that data from a marketing perspective. But I would say, when you look at, Citrix.com and our web forms, and all the digital really touch points from just a form perspective, they're all marketing automation. And we try to standardize that as much as possible to eliminate multiple sources. In the event that we do have other sources, we also have looked at to build an interface for CloudHub that can act as like a receiving location. And so maybe a third-party system like our e-commerce store can actually provide the data to CloudHub in a kind of a location drop. And CloudHub can kind of pick that information up and actually send it back to marketing automation, which eventually makes it into our CRM system.
Got it. That sounds very cool. Let's see. This is a little bit more of a technical question for you, Imran. In your scenario, you talked about a bi-directional need to sync and transact back and forth. What were the biggest challenges of making that work around ensuring data consistency and data quality?
So the biggest challenge, I won't say it was a challenge, but it was the support with the connectors and all the operations that are supported by the SaaS applications APIs. That was really handy to work with these requirements. So to be honest with you, the sending data or receiving data from these systems that were very flashy, that was very quick. The challenges were when we were working with the dedupe logic or the survivorship logic, because that was a little bit tricky, because as we were working on 3 objects, lead, account, and contact, some of our survivorship rules were to look into all of these objects to make sure that we are getting the latest and greatest object and sending it over to Marketo. So that's where it took a little bit more time, I would say, or effort to resolve those survivorship rules. But overall, the connectivity, either unidirectional or bidirectional, was pretty easy.
Great, thanks. Last question, either one of you can answer. What's the next sort of project on the horizon? What's the next big thing for Citrix around this project? Or is it other projects?
So we have quite a few projects that are lined up to be rolled out on the CloudHub platform. Like I said, that we adopted this platform as iPad. So anything where we will have to provide the integration between the SaaS applications, our side is to go and use this platform, as well as there are scenarios based on the requirement for cloud to on-prem or on-prem to cloud integration. We always evaluate it and go in and do it on the CloudHub platform. So for marketing, yes, we do have a couple of more projects that we are that are lined up that will be going early next year, as well as we have a couple of projects that we are looking to do for our service desk, which is already moved into Salesforce.
We definitely want to continue to extend, CloudHub and the reach within Citrix. just going back to what Imran had mentioned, so from a marketing perspective, we actually want to extend the way that we integrate marketing automation back to Salesforce. So we spent a lot of time in that project, pulling data from Salesforce into marketing automation, and then we did, do some updates on the other way around. But really, on the other side, what we want to be able to do is look at the marketing automation back to Salesforce and figure out, ways that we can improve that, enhance the way that leads and get past the Salesforce. I think there's the other opportunity that we have is looking at third-party applications and how they integrate with marketing automation. I think that's a huge opportunity where we started to look at different interfaces and figuring out, okay, well, we have this great third-party technology that could complement marketing automation or maybe even enrich marketing automation data, and how can we do a connection. We've always looked at Cloud Hub. Now that we have this platform, that can kind of do that handoff, and I think it really extends the value of marketing automation. You can now, plug in different third-party services and vendors to, enrich your data or provide new capabilities and features.
Great. A huge thank you to our speakers today. We do have time to take a few questions from the audience, but first I'd like to go over a few webinar logistics for those who joined us a bit late. This webinar is being recorded, and you will have access to the recording once the webinar is over. If you have a question for our presenters, now is the time to send them in. You can do this by clicking the questions button at the top of your screen. If you'd like to share something you liked in this webinar, we encourage you to engage on Twitter using the official hashtag MuleSoftWebinar. And finally, if you have any questions about a particular use case, or if your question does not get answered in our Q&A, you can submit them to our team of integration experts at MuleSoft.com/ask. Now we're ready to take our first question. So Carrie, this seems like a good one for you. What do you recommend for customers who are looking to implement Salesforce where integration is a concern?
Well, the first thing I think about is really a holistic approach to cloud technology. You have all of these new systems being implemented in sales and marketing and finance and ops. And it's important to think about what the end game is for all of that data. There's going to be somebody in the organization who wants to see a piece of data from one application and a piece of data from another. So think about the user's requirements on reporting, and that then can drive your integration strategy and how Salesforce fits in with that.
And then, so for Chris, this seems like a question for you. We already have an ESB in place. Why should I look at adding an iPaaS?
Got it. Well, I think a couple things. It depends what ESB you have in place, but traditionally ESBs or message brokers, which are not ESBs but are commonly confused with ESBs, they were really designed for a small number of internal systems to talk to each other. As you start to bring a lot of SaaS into your enterprise, which one, don't live inside your firewall, two, they expose more modern APIs with potentially more modern security considerations as well. Number one, a lot of the legacy ESPs don't handle hybrid, outside the firewall, modern APIs, modern security frameworks, modern web protocols very easily, if at all. Number two, there are a lot of sort of cloud-centric scenarios where you're going between Marketo and, let's say, or ExactTarget or any of the marketing automation systems that are SaaS-based, and Salesforce. Well, bringing all that data, from the cloud, if you will, back inside your firewall to your ESB, and then back out again to the next SaaS system, it's just pretty inefficient. So iPaaS give you the ability to kind of run that cloud to cloud to cloud and just are much more efficient. And then thirdly, and this tends to be the biggest driver we see with our customers, is just speed and agility. The more modern iPaaS of the world allow you to go much, much faster than sort of traditional legacy ESB technologies. And as we kind of alluded to in the webinar, marketing and sales are expecting things at the speed of SaaS, and IT is under a lot of pressure to move at a different speed, and they're not going to be able to do that with more modern platforms and tools to work with.
Great. And for Chris Morrison, Imran, this seems like a good question for you. What would you recommend to others based on your experience? What are some of the things that you've learned?
So when we reviewed multiple asset projects, we were looking at a platform that only not support the current requirements but also support the extendability, where in real world scenarios all these things are not simple. So when you get the requirements from business, they seem simple. When you try to implement them and explore them, they become complex. So we're looking at a platform that can be extended, that should be able to support the complex business needs. And this platform does that, and that is one of the unique features, I would say. It provides you the library, the community support, as well as the MuleSoft support team. They work with you to make sure that you are successful in getting your requirements done.
Yeah, and I would also just to add to that, I mean, when you think about an integration and you really want it to, what Imran mentioned, be a platform, if you go with like kind of a point solution, what you'll find is, when you enable something, the business is going to come back and say, wow, this is fantastic. I have 20 other use cases for how we could integrate this or leverage this. And I think the great thing is because we spent time on a platform that we felt like we could grow with, all of those requests that we're getting now, we're able to, prioritize and really implement. So I think that's something that's really important, that something, you want to take a technology that you can certainly grow with, and think long term, because it is definitely an investment from just a resource perspective, as well as monetary as well.
And Carrie, this seems like another one for you. What's the biggest mistake you see when companies are trying to align their sales and marketing departments?
Yeah, it's it's more a matter of sort of when we talk about people, process, and technology. I often find it's a little bit about technology, but really when projects are not as successful is when people actually forget the people and the process side of it. So when you're thinking about implementing some technology, always think about the process that the sales and marketing teams are actually going to work together on. I think the worst thing that we can do is say, it's marketing's responsibility up to a lead being thrown over the wall, and then it's all up to the salespeople then to close the deal. I feel like if sales and marketing actually run that entire sales process together, then we get close rates being increased, productivity being increased, and that alignment between those two departments.
And then for Chris, for MuleSoft, one last question, and we're wrapping up here. The question is, what things should I consider when deciding what iPaaS to pick?
Well, I think Chris Morris from Citrix actually hit it on the head. I think there are simpler WYSIWYG tools in the browser that you can do simple things very quickly with. But as Imran articulated as well, integrations are complex. They're full of corner cases, and when things go wrong, what happens? How do you handle that? So there's always a contrast between simple and easy to learn and do something really quick, and longevity around being able to support robust, expansive use cases that inevitably come to pass. I think as Chris said, the minute you give the business something quick and they love it, then the other 20 things show up. And so I think really trying, it depends. I mean, if you're just trying to do something simple and that's all you're trying to do, then I'm not sure that MuleSoft's exactly the right place for you. But I would really then question, the fact that you're not going to go anywhere with this thing long term. If you think about these investments, instead of at a project level being a 1-week investment kind of thing, you think about this being a multi-year investment, then I think having something that is very graphical and easy to learn and get going, but then can grow with you over time. And as you get more IT involvement and you may need development involvement, what you've built isn't a throwaway, but you can open it up, extend it, add to it, and it can become something that's very robust in the long term. I think we see our more successful customers that start small and expand out. This platform really becomes their agility layer to be able to move at the speed of business and yet still have a good architecture and good governance layer for how it interacts with the key systems of record and the key customer data that the business cares very much about.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have today. At this point, I'd like to thank our audience for joining and for participating. I'd also like to thank all of our speakers for the great presentation. We hope you'll join us next time.